At 4:16 local time, the ocean suddenly changes. Not because of waves, not because of spray, because of pressure. A Venezuelan surface vessel moves through the calm Caribbean, its engine steady and its course fixed. On the bridge, the night watch feels ordinary, radar is clear, the horizon is empty. Nothing on the screens seems worth a second look. Then the water ahead of the bow begins to rise. It is not foam, it is not a wake, it is something beneath the surface pushing upward. A dark shape breaks through the sea, forcing tons of water aside with silent force. The surface peels away. A pressure wave rolls outward. Directly in front of the Venezuelan ship, a US submarine emerges from below. Too close. At that distance, there is no clean maneuver, no comfortable margin, no room to turn without creating a far bigger problem. On the Venezuelan bridge, everyone stops. The helmsman freezes in the middle of a correction. A junior officer tightens his grip on the console, staring straight ahead. Someone reaches toward the radio, then hesitates. The submarine's sail is already above the water. Matte black, silent, featureless, enormous at this distance. Water pours from its hull in heavy sheets, crashing back into the sea. Its deck lights remain dark. No signal lamps, no warning flashes, no radio call. Only presence. The Venezuelan ship slows, almost by instinct. The bow wave fades as speed drops. The engines ease back before anyone clearly gives the order.
Nobody wants to be the first one to make a move. From the submarine's sail, an American ensign snaps once in the wind as the mast clears the surface. The vessel settles into place with perfect control. No roll, no visible correction, no sign of urgency. This was not a rushed surfacing, it was intentional. Inside the submarine's control room, the depth alerts are already silent. The ballast tanks are set. The boat is stable, balanced, and nearly motionless against the sea state. Instruments show normal readings across the board. The commanding officer says nothing. He does not need to. Every number that mattered had been worked out minutes earlier. Surfacing angle, relative motion, closest point of approach. The geometry had been selected before the Venezuelan crew ever saw steel rise from the water. On the surface ship, the radar operator finally looks back down at the scope. Now the contact is there. Large, clear, impossible to miss, but far too late to matter. The radar did not fail.
The sonar did not fail. They were simply never going to provide enough warning for what had just happened. The distance between the two vessels is measured in seconds, not miles. Any sudden change in speed could turn the moment into something neither side wants. So no one escalates. No one makes a dramatic move. The forward deck system remains still, pointed ahead and untouched. Moving it now could be misunderstood as panic, or something worse. On the bridge, a senior officer raises one hand slightly, palm down. Hold! Everyone's attention returns to the submarine. From this angle, the American boat seems to overshadow the entire scene. Its hull cuts off the stars behind it. The water displaced by its mass rolls beneath the Venezuelan bow, pulling at the ship as if the sea itself has shifted its weight. Still, there is no radio call, no identify yourself, no order to change course, no tone, no warning, no words. The silence says more than any message could. On the submarine, sensors are already watching. Periscopes sit just high enough to see. Cameras and instruments collect live imagery. Range data updates moment by moment. Every movement on the Venezuelan deck is observed, logged and time-stamped. The submarine does not move forward. It does not back away. It simply remains there at point-blank range, controlling the space by making itself impossible to ignore. On the Venezuelan bridge, someone finally exhales. Another officer whispers a single word, barely loud enough to rise above the low hum of the reduced engines. Submarino. Not as an identification, as a realization. Because this was not a routine patrol moment. It was not a navigation mistake, and it was not coincidence. This submarine chose this place,
this moment and this exact position for a reason. Around both vessels, the water slowly settles. The surface smooths again, almost as if nothing happened. But the geometry has not changed.
The imbalance is complete. The Venezuelan ship is still intact, still capable, and still frozen in place. The American submarine has not said a word, but the message has already arrived. No alarms sound. That is the first thing that feels strange aboard the Venezuelan vessel. No emergency klaxon. No rush of shouted orders through the passageways. No sudden wave of movement from deck to deck. The bridge stays quiet, held in a tense calm that feels unnatural, especially with the dark steel shape now dominating everything ahead. The submarine holds position. It does not drift. It does not swing. It sits in the water as if it had been placed there. The Venezuelan helmsman keeps both hands fixed on the wheel, his grip tight, waiting for an order that never comes. The ship has slowed to the bare minimum needed to steer. Its wake fades behind it. The bow no longer slices through the water. It simply drifts forward, held back by caution more than anything else.
Someone on the bridge finally speaks.
Range?
A quiet reply follows. Close. No one asks for the exact number. At this distance, numbers do not make anyone feel safer. The submarine's sail blocks the horizon ahead. Its hull sits low in the water, heavy and unmoved by the tension around it. Water continues to drain from its casing in slow, measured streams. It looks calm because it is calm. Whatever calculation placed it here has already been completed. On the Venezuelan deck, the crew has stopped moving.
Helmets are on, but no one goes near the forward deck systems. Everything remains fixed in place, pointed harmlessly ahead, like a decision deliberately left unmade. Every sailor understands the same thing at the same moment. Whatever they do next will be interpreted. A radar sweep will be logged. A course change will be noticed. A sudden movement on deck will be recorded and remembered. So nothing happens. Inside the submarine, sensors build a perfect picture of the surface ship. Hull markings, deck layout, heat signatures from crew members standing under the lights. Passive systems absorb every sound around them. Idle engines, faint hull vibrations, the soft turbulence of disturbed water. No active signal breaks the silence. The submarine does not need to announce itself. It already controls the moment. On the Venezuelan bridge, an officer steps closer to the windows, narrowing his eyes as he studies the sail. There are no visible crew topside, no signal lights, no open message. Only dark steel and controlled presence. The radio handset remains untouched. Calling now would mean admitting uncertainty. Worse, it would mean asking a question they may not want answered. The ship's captain arrives on the bridge, called quietly and without ceremony. He takes in the entire scene in a single glance. The submarine, the distance, the stillness. He does not raise his voice. He does not need to. His eyes stay fixed on the submarine as he gives one short instruction. Hold course. It is the only safe order left. The submarine has not changed position, but the meaning of its presence has changed completely. This is no longer a surprise. It is a test of discipline, a test of restraint, a test of whether the surface ship understands what just happened. The Venezuelan crew understands enough. They know they are being watched. Not vaguely, precisely. Every movement is framed, captured, and stored. There will be no confusion later. Whatever happens next will exist in clear detail. Minutes stretch. The sea remains calm. The Caribbean offers no drama, no cover, no distraction. Early light begins to creep along the horizon, catching the edges of the submarine's sail and turning the water around it a dull bronze. Still, there is no communication. The imbalance becomes suffocating. The submarine can slip beneath the surface at any moment and disappear back into the ocean as if it had never been there. Or it can remain where it is, forcing the Venezuelan ship to sit inside its shadow, exposed and waiting. Both choices belong to the submarine. None belong to the surface ship. On the Venezuelan bridge, a junior officer glances toward the radar, then quickly looks away. The contact is steady, held in place by physics more than electronics. The worst kind of certainty. Somewhere deep inside the submarine, a timer reaches 0. But nothing happens. No sudden movement, no signal, no escalation. The silence itself becomes the pressure.
Because now, the Venezuelan crew understands something far more unsettling than a warning. This submarine did not surface to start a confrontation. It surfaced to be seen. And by doing that, it has already taken control of the encounter. The first movement is almost impossible to notice. The submarine eases forward. Not a rush, not a retreat, just a controlled shift, barely enough to change the geometry between the two vessels. On the Venezuelan bridge, the change registers instantly. The bow wave adjusts. Water curls differently along the hull. It is a subtle reminder that even when it appears still, the submarine decides the distance, the angle, and the consequence. Someone whispers, "She's moving." No one answers. Close enough that any sudden turn would be reckless. This is not pursuit, it is containment. On the submarine, the periscope feed steadies. The surface ship fills the frame with perfect clarity. Every deck fitting is sharp. Every figure on deck is distinct. The boat's tactical systems remain quiet. No aggressive cues, no final locks. But everything is being measured. Range, relative speed, closest point of approach. The numbers leave no room for comfort. On the Venezuelan ship, the officers feel it, even if no one says it out loud. The submarine is not trying to intimidate them. It does not need to. It is showing them exactly how exposed they are, how long they have been exposed, and how little control they have over the situation. The surface ship cannot outrun what it cannot track. It cannot maneuver against what it cannot predict. The submarine's hull moves through the water with almost insulting calm. No wasted motion, no dramatic surge, no turbulence beyond what physics requires. It is not trying to impress anyone. It is proving control through restraint. Minutes pass. Still no radio traffic. That silence is no longer empty. It is deliberate. Every unanswered second tightens the moment further. If the Venezuelan ship speaks first, it admits uncertainty. If it changes course first, it reveals pressure. So it does neither. On deck, the sailors remain still, aware that even the smallest movement may be visible through unseen lenses. Hands stay away from equipment. No one adjusts anything. Even body language feels dangerous. The submarine notices everything. Inside the control room, data moves quietly across the displays. Passive sensors confirm what the crew already knows. The surface ship's engines remain steady. No sudden rise in power. No preparation for a sharp maneuver. The tension is real, but controlled. That is exactly what matters. This encounter is not about forcing a mistake. It is about making the lesson impossible to miss. The submarine edges slightly closer. Not enough to create immediate danger, just enough to remove any remaining doubt. On the Venezuelan bridge, an officer finally mutters, "We never heard her." That realization lands harder than the distance itself. They were not simply noticed and approached. They had been observed, followed, and allowed to continue until the submarine chose the exact moment to appear. This was not a reaction. It was choreography. The submarine holds position off the surface ship's bow quarter, sitting inside a narrow zone where hardware matters less than judgment. It could slip beneath the surface in seconds. It could disappear completely. It could stay exactly where it is. Each option belongs to the submarine. The surface ship has none. Sunlight now reflects cleanly along the submarine's sail. The silhouette is unmistakable. Anyone watching would understand the same thing. A surface vessel held in place, not by impact, not by noise, but by certainty. On the Venezuelan bridge, the captain exhales slowly. His voice stays controlled as he gives another order. Maintain. It is not defiance, it is survival. The submarine holds. Then,
without warning, and without drama, it stops moving altogether.
Completely still. The message becomes even sharper. This boat does not need speed to dominate the scene. It does not need momentum. It has already achieved what it came for. Time stretches again. The Venezuelan ship remains intact, crewed, capable, and completely constrained. No loud warnings, no open demands, no dramatic gestures. Just one undeniable truth suspended between dark steel and calm water. This encounter was decided the moment the submarine broke the surface.
Everything after that has only confirmed it. Because dominance does not always arrive with noise. Sometimes it simply appears and waits. The meaning settles in slowly, not as a sudden shock, but as a realization that cannot be reversed. The submarine has stopped moving, yet the encounter keeps tightening. Its position is exact. The angle of the bow is not accidental. The distance is not random. Every variable says the same thing. This was not a warning. It was a demonstration. On the Venezuelan bridge, the captain studies the submarine's sail again. There is no crew topside, no visible activity, no flags, no flashing lights. The boat is not performing anymore. It has already made its point. And that is when the full weight of it lands. This submarine did not surface because it had to. It surfaced because it could. Because it knew exactly where the surface ship would be. Because it understood the water depth, the traffic picture, and the timing.
Because it knew there would be no reaction fast enough to change the outcome. This was not presence by chance. It was presence by design. On the Venezuelan ship, an officer finally reaches for the radio. The handset is lifted, then held in place. No one speaks. The channel remains open and silent, as if words might disturb a situation already controlled by silence. Inside the submarine, nothing changes. The control room remains steady. Systems hum at idle. The boat's posture is calm, almost relaxed. There is no urgency, because none is needed. The submarine has already delivered its message. It knows where the surface ship is. It knows how it moves. It knows how quickly it can respond. And most importantly, it knows one fact the Venezuelan crew cannot ignore. They never detected it. The Venezuelan ship is still in control of its engines, its course, and its crew. But everyone on the bridge now understands that the real control of the encounter belonged somewhere else. That realization moves through the room without a single word. Eyes shift, shoulders tighten, breathing changes. The tension is no longer about distance alone. It has become something deeper. Awareness. They were exposed long before the submarine appeared. Then the submarine adjusts its angle slightly. A minor correction, barely visible unless someone is watching closely. The hull turns only a few degrees, and the water answers immediately. The movement is subtle, but precise. Another quiet reminder that the submarine still controls the spacing, the angle, and the rhythm of the entire scene. Then, at last, it begins to leave. There is no announcement, no signal, no countdown. The sail remains visible for a moment, but the hull starts settling lower in the water. Ballast shifts. The sea seems to rise toward the steel, slowly reclaiming it. On the Venezuelan bridge, someone takes in a sharp breath. The submarine is going back under. Not as an escape, as a conclusion. As the hull sinks, the lesson becomes complete. This was never really about blocking a route. It was not about escorting the ship away. It was not about forcing a response. It was about clarity. You were seen, you were followed, you were approached exactly when the submarine chose. And there was nothing you could do to change that. The descent continues, slowly, deliberately. Impossible to misunderstand. Water climbs the sail. The black steel disappears inch by inch. No rush, no noise, no drama. Just controlled submersion. The sea closes over the final visible edge. And then, it is gone. The surface looks empty again. Calm, smooth, unchanged. As if the ocean itself has erased the entire event. But aboard the Venezuelan ship, nothing feels the same.
Radar shows nothing. Sonar hears nothing. The submarine has vanished completely, exactly as it arrived. The captain lowers his hand from the radio. There is no call to make now. No simple message that can fully explain what just happened. Only time, position, and the memory of an encounter that ended without contact, but carried unmistakable purpose. Slowly, the ship brings power back up. The engines answer carefully. The course remains steady. No sudden moves, no display of confidence. Just a vessel continuing forward through water that no longer feels empty. Everyone understands the same thing. The encounter is over. The message has been delivered, and it did not need a single word. The sea slowly returns to normal. The wake moves out first. Reflections settle across the surface. The Caribbean begins to look exactly the way it looked before 418. But aboard the Venezuelan ship, normal does not return. The engines are brought back carefully, with no sudden surge and no attempt to regain confidence too quickly. The helm responds with restraint, as if the water itself might still be watching. On the bridge, no one celebrates the fact that the ship is still moving. That was never the real question. The question was control. The captain orders a quiet systems check. Not because anything appears damaged, but because procedure demands action after silence that heavy. The reports come back clean. Hull intact, steering responsive, deck systems untouched. Everything works. And somehow that makes the moment feel even heavier. Below deck, the crew begins moving again, but not the same way as before. Conversations are shorter. Voices stay low. Eyes drift toward the walls, as if the steel around them might still remember what passed beneath it. The ocean revealed nothing. The submarine left no trace. And that means it could still be nearby. Every sonar operator knows that feeling. The kind of silence that does not feel empty, but intentional. The kind that makes you wonder whether the water is truly clear or simply refusing to answer. No contact appears, no return signal, no sign at all, only quiet. The ship records the encounter the only way it can. Time, coordinates, visual confirmation. Duration, no direct action observed, no communication exchanged. A clean official record for something that felt anything but clean. There will be questions later. From command, from analysts, from people far away from this stretch of water, reading the report line by line and understanding exactly what it means, even if the report never says it directly. Because no one needs the meaning spelled out. A submarine appeared at extremely close range. It had not been detected. It was not challenged. It stayed long enough to make its point. Then it disappeared. That fact will travel farther than any radio call. On the bridge, the captain looks one last time toward the horizon. It is empty now. Blue, calm, open. No sail, no shadow, no trace of steel. But the geometry remains burned into memory. The distance, the angle, the helplessness of waiting while another vessel quietly shaped every possible choice. This was not an engagement. It was not even a standoff. It was a reminder. Submarines do not need to announce themselves to control a space. They do not need noise. They do not need threats. They only need to appear once, close enough to remove doubt. Somewhere below the surface, the American boat is already gone. Silent, invisible, moving toward whatever comes next, as if this moment never happened at all. That is the final imbalance. The submarine may leave this encounter behind. The surface ship will carry it. Every future watch will remember it.
Every unexplained trace on the instruments.
Every patch of calm water that looks just a little too calm. Every time the sea feels empty in a way that does not feel natural. The lesson does not fade. It settles. The Venezuelan ship continues on its course. Engine steady, posture professional. Flags still moving in the wind, orders still being given. Routine resumes because it has to, but something fundamental has changed. They now know what it feels like to be seen without seeing back, to be measured without measuring, to be allowed forward without ever being in command of the moment. No open confrontation took place, no loud warning was needed, no words were exchanged, and still, the outcome is unmistakable. The submarine never had to do anything more. Its presence was enough.